Well, hello, I'm Renee DiNino, and my first crush, as many women will attest to, was the one, the only Shaun Cassidy. And guess what? We happen to have Shaun with us today. He's on tour. He's got his wine. He is like a quadruple threat in our industry. I mean, it is I'm so excited to talk to you, Shaun. First and foremost, thank you for taking time out of your tour and your busy life to say hello.
Thanks, Renee. Thanks for having me.
You know, I got the opportunity to book this interview with you, and I said, whatever I'm doing today, I have to make sure I get this in, because I need to thank you for so many years of entertainment, from the Hardy Boys, obviously your music. I still have all your albums, by the way, and all you've done and contributed to our industry, from writing, from Broadway to your touring and stuff like that. Is there anything you haven't done yet that you want to do?
I haven't hosted a news show.
Oh, you're coming to Connecticut March 13th. Open invitation to come to Channel 3.
No, I've been really fortunate. I've gotten to do a lot of things. And, you know, I think one of the most important things, I say this to young people, I go to like film schools and talk to aspiring writers and directors and actors and editors and all of them. And first thing I asked, I said, what do you do? And they'll say, well, I'm an actor, or I'm a singer, or I'm a this. And I said, well, let me give you a gift. Stop saying that. Say you're a creative, because that'll keep the door open for you in any lane. And you're going to need to run in a lot of different lanes if you're going to have a long-term career, especially now. And I find that most people who are good at one creative thing tend to be good at many, but they end up limiting themselves because they decide that they're a this. And we're not a this. We're a lot of stuff. And I don't know how I figured that out as a young guy, but I was never afraid to jump into a different part of our business, to try different things creatively. And I've been really grateful that I've been able to do it. But the bulk of my career has been as a storyteller, writer, producer, and TV. And now with the show I'm doing, I'm being able to take all these stories of my life and the audience's life and meld them into songs that they might know from when they were kids, hit songs and some new songs and songs from my family, and weave them together in a continuous narrative that has a lot of humor and some tears, and it's really fun.
You know, I was thinking about our conversation today and what you've seen and what you've grown up with within the industry and the changes which you've alluded to. I mean, today you have to have so many different skills and so many different assets. Nobody can just have, as to what you just said, one thing that they're good at. You have to be good at multitasking, but you were sort of brought up in that way, which, do you even remember when you became cognizant of knowing all the digital tips or knowing all the social media? Or I feel like we've grown, and our age, we've seen everything evolve so much. And sometimes I look back, I'm like, how did I even learn how to text? I don't even know, but I know how to do it now. But how does that help you today, having that work ethic or having that wherewithal when you first started in this industry?
Well, it's old dog, new tricks. You know, you don't want to ever think you've figured it out, because the train's moving. The fact that I just use train as a reference should tell you, though, where I come from. It's really interesting. I've thought about this a lot, like filmmakers even. Like, you look at someone like Spielberg, right? Spielberg is the gold standard, arguably the most successful filmmaker last century. He has been emulated and copied so many times that if he doesn't keep changing, he's going to be old hat. That's true of everyone, no matter what you do. You don't need to be creative. Whatever your business is, you have to keep learning. You have to stay humble, stay teachable, and keep moving. And don't think that because you've been doing it for 100 years that you know better. You don't. I don't know better about what's going on in social media than a 20-year-old does, because I haven't grown up with that focus. I'm learning late, but I'm open to learning. I'll give you another, maybe better example. The last show I was on was a show called New Amsterdam. I was a writer, producer, executive producer of that show. Big hit medical show, ran 5 years on NBC, then became the #1 show in the world on Netflix. Great show. And I was the senior writer. I was the most experienced writer, but there were young writers on that show who I learned a lot from, because their frame of reference was different than mine. You know, the oldest show they'd ever known was Friends, right? I know older shows than that.
Me too, sir. Well, first of all, I think I interviewed you when you just were starting American Gothic, which, by the way, still
Wow, you don't look old enough to have interviewed me then,
you
but
know,
congratulations.
thank you so much. And this is why you were my first crush, but we'll get into that in a moment. But American Gothic still stands the test of time today, which goes back to the skills of good writing and good information. A good story is a good story. It doesn't matter what year it is, right? And we'll even go back to the Hardy
Sure.
Boys. But are you doing any more writing now? Do you have anything that you can talk about
Oh
outside
yeah,
of
that's
the
still
tour?
my main job.
Yeah.
I have a pilot at NBC right now.
Okay.
I've never stopped.
Okay.
And as I said, you know, I was on New Amsterdam until just a couple of years ago. I was on that show for 5 years.
Yeah.
And it was during that show that I started thinking about doing this because I miss the connection with an audience. I've been in a room writing stories for like 30 years. And I thought, why don't I get out and tell stories? And that was the key for me to embrace singing again because I had stopped. My last concert was at the Astrodome in 1980, 55,000 people. I'm 21. I say goodnight. Done.
Really?
Happily done because I was able to
That's nuts.
go do something that honestly gave me a better life. I didn't love being a public figure, so writing was perfect.
So I do
But-
want to I want to get into a few things because I know we don't have a lot of time, and I know you have
Yeah,
a lot
yeah.
of fans that are going to be watching this. So maybe we'll just take things in units. And I do want to go back to, you know, our first date was when I got your album, and of course all the magazines. And I have to say, your wine line is so perfectly named. You truly were my first crush. My mother can confirm this. But I think that's true for a lot of people. And I know it might seem embarrassing or silly or, you know, you were a heartthrob. There's no way to put it. And in the most innocent and sweet way, I believed one day you and I were getting married. I have a ring on my finger. We're fine. But there you go, see? But you know, you have to like balance that with wanting to have a career, wanting to do different things. But you were a heartthrob. How did that shape your career, and how did you look at your career knowing that?
I really didn't view that as my career. I viewed it as sort of maybe a byproduct of my career.
Byproduct, right?
And it's very, you know, people come up to me now a lot and say I was their first album or their first concert, or yes, maybe even their first crush, no accounting for taste. But I get it. I mean, I had crushes. I still have a crush on my wife. I've been married over 20 years. It's a great feeling, and it's sort of a timeless feeling. You know, I wrote a song called My First Crush, and as you say, I have a wine called My First Crush. We live in the wine country of Santa Barbara, and that's a nice little side hustle that raises money for No Kid Hungry, which is a great organization. But the idea of a crush is maybe temporary, but the feeling is timeless. And I think crushes are like gateway drugs to real love.
Yeah. And so speaking of since we're being a little bit fun right now, who was your first celebrity crush?
Julie Newmar, the original Catwoman on Batman on the series.
I don't think anyone would argue with that. And, you know, let's go into to your first crush, or my first crush, the wine, because it does have a great community angle too, and I love it. And I've worked with No Kid Hungry here in Connecticut, a great organization. Why did you pick that? And tell me how you got to the wine business.
Yeah, it's not really a business. I mean, it raises money for them, and it's labor of love. It's not really profitable for me, but it's fun. I live in the wine country. Our family lives in the wine country of Santa Barbara. And during the pandemic, one of our dear friends who was a brilliant winemaker called and said he had 500 cases of extraordinary Pinot Noir that was slated to go to all these high-end restaurants that had closed because of the pandemic. Could I help him sell it? And I said, well, I'm not really a wine salesman, but I called No Kid Hungry and I said, what if I put a label on this wine and kind of sold it off my social media and gave you guys percentage of the profits? Would you be into that? Yeah, great. So we did, and it kind of blew up. So now if you go to myfirstcrush.com, you can join our wine club and feed kids and have some extraordinary wine, and maybe come out to Santa Barbara and have some wine with me, or we do these virtual wine tastings every quarter, and I'll see you on Zoom, and it's fun.
I love that idea. I do a little segment here called Wine Wednesday. And so I know on your tour dates, it's listing that you're coming to Connecticut on March 13th to Foxwoods. So I was thinking in my head, I'm like, maybe we do like a little wine show there and help raise money for No Kid Hungry here in Connecticut. If you're up for it,
Sold.
I'll talk to you.
Happy to do it.
All right, fantastic. But let's get back to this tour and get back to your roots. And then we're going to wrap with the Hardy Boys. We absolutely have to. But when you are preparing to go on tour now, what are some of the differences, or what are some of the things that you know now that make you better on stage, or make it easier for you to tour now?
Well, I can actually connect with the audience in a way that I could never do it when they were young and when I was young, because my concerts were, big arena screamathons. I mean, it was extraordinary. It was a big energy ball of kids screaming at you, but I could hardly hear myself. I could hardly keep my voice because I was screaming to hear myself sing. I couldn't say anything beyond thank you. Now, I'm dealing with mostly adults, although there's a lot of people in their 20s that come, and I was surprised at that, but I think it's because the Hardy Boys has been on Peacock the last few years, so a lot of people, younger people who've watched the Hardy Boys come to the show, and they see a guy who looks like Joe Hardy's father. It's fine. But they're grateful to be there, and I'm grateful to be with them, and as I say, this show has a real emotional arc to it. It's very funny in many ways. It's very open and honest, and I share a lot of stuff, and it weaves into the songs, so the songs get presented in ways that are surprising and fresh. So it's not just a nostalgia night. That's there, but there's a lot of new stuff, and people come for the songs, they leave with the stories, and it's really gratifying.
Well, I would imagine so, because it's almost generational. I mean, it's no secret you come from such an extraordinary family with extraordinary talent, from your parents to your siblings and things. So do you share some of that? I mean, do you really open it up to just about everything? Because you were saying it runs the gamut from, happy tears and maybe some sorrowful tears and maybe some impactful stories. So just how open are you on stage with this?
Very. I found that and yes, a lot of it's about my family. I talk about my mom and dad, and about David, about my kids who grew up with a guy who went to an office and made TV shows, who suddenly, imagine your dad showing up one morning, kitchen table, hey kids, I think I'm going to be a rock star. Dad's having a nervous breakdown, because they had no connection to this part of my life. It all happened before they were born. So being able to do that now, and have my kids in the audience, and have an audience that knew me when, and have many new people that never saw me in concert, they weren't born. It's great. I think it's my favorite thing I've ever done.
I absolutely love hearing this, and I want to make sure that I'm getting this right. But you have 7 kids, you and your wife?
Yeah.
That's unbelievable.
A kid for every decade.
I mean, talk about a Thanksgiving table. Your holidays must be wild and fun.
They're fantastic. I just went home. I've been on the road since September. I little stops at home, but mostly out. So having 2 weeks off at Christmas, I felt like George Bailey coming home from It's a Wonderful Life. There's my old house and my wife and my kids and the old, it was really great. And yeah, my kids, some of them are older. My oldest son has a beautiful wife. They come together. My younger kids bring friends. It's fun.
So what does Shaun Cassidy today wish that young Shaun Cassidy to do? Run, Shaun Cassidy. What advice would you tell him if you could go back and give yourself any tips?
I would say have more fun, because I was a very old soul and a very serious young guy, way more serious at 18 than I am now. I don't know how that happened, but I had a lot of responsibility at 18, and I got married very young. That's one of the reasons I have so many kids. I got married at 21. My first wife had a daughter, so I was a stepfather to an 8-year-old when I was 21. So and I had 2 kids of my own by the time I was 25. So I was very conscious of taking care of a lot of people, and my younger brothers. We lost our father when I was 18. So, I was stepping into that that role. And I didn't have as much fun as I might have otherwise also, but if I had too much fun, I might not be here to talk to you. So maybe it all worked out.
Yeah, your name honestly, and then this has been my only industry, like you've always been above Hollywood typical, stereotypical chatter. Was that by design? Did you kind of keep yourself out and protect your family like subconsciously? Because you obviously you know what headlines can do and how Hollywood can be, or entertainment reports and things like that. But to me, and I've been a fan my whole life, it seems like you've kind of minded your business and just did what you did and kind of kept out of that.
Well, there's a great expression my mother uses called, she says, be in it but not of it. I love creating things. I love making things. I have no interest in all the trappings of Hollywood. Being on a red carpet, even awards and all this, it doesn't matter to me. I just like making stuff. Yeah. And I love working with creative people. I love collaboration. We moved out of LA about 15 years ago. My older kids grew up there, went to private school there. I didn't want that for our younger kids, and we had 4 kids under 7 15 years ago, and we moved to a little town on the central coast of California. Public school, regular people, nobody in show business, fantastic. Best thing I ever did. I think we put probably 2 or 3 years on their childhoods by doing that. Mm-hmm. And I know a lot of people, like Ron Howard, who I've known since he was a little boy. He was in a movie called The Music Man with my mom, right? When he was 8 and I'm like 4, riding around bicycles on the set of Warner Brothers. Ron is a great example of someone who had success as an actor as a young guy, went behind the scenes, had an extraordinary career as a director, moved his family to Connecticut, has had a normal life, whatever normal is.
Right.
And that always meant something to me. I think being a writer was important to me because it gave me something closer to a normal life. Being a performer, I loved the performing. I didn't like being chased by paparazzi. I didn't like all that attention all the time. I couldn't have any anonymity. And I'm a writer. I wanted to be able to sit back and observe people. I couldn't go out of my house for the 80s. I was basically locked in my house.
Well, as our time is almost coming to a close, I want to just bullet point a few little things. The Hardy Boys, the Nancy Drew mysteries. I looked so forward to all of that. I would love to see some sort of a different type of a reboot, but that was just so special that time. And can you talk a little bit about, you know, being on that show and Parker and all of that fun stuff?
Well, it was my first job, and it was a great first job because Parker was awesome. He remains a dear friend. He's 6, 7 years older than I am. He just graduated from Princeton with an architecture degree. And I said, what are you doing being an actor? And he said, I can't get a job at an architectural firm. So he ends up on the Hardy Boys with me, but we had a blast. And, you know, you get a new girlfriend every week on the show. You get to solve a mystery. You get to do cool things. What could be bad? 18 to 21.
Oh, gosh. I just love watching those shows. And finally, our last question. Let's bring it back to the tour, the Road to Us tour. We can go to ShaunCassidy.com to get all of the dates. Again, March 13th, you'll be coming to Connecticut to Foxwoods. I mean, to do Run, 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 I've got every song and I have all the albums. And of course, right now I'm going blank because I am still fangirling a little bit here. But how much fun is it to sing those songs and look into the audience and generationally see everybody singing along with you?
It's magical. It's like time travel. It's magical. And, you know, I was a kid magician, so I can say that with some authority. These shows are very transformative. Oh, that picture is hysterical because, you know, I'm wearing those pants.
Yeah.
I was playing Indiana, and my son, our youngest son, is going to be a Hoosier freshman year at Indiana. What a great year to be at Indiana. Their football team is owning the world.
I didn't
so
even
I went
know
to the
that.
student store and I bought the Hoosier pants and I wore them for the show. And the audience loved it.
Isn't that awesome? Well, ShaunCassidy.com is where you can go to get all of the tour dates. And I'm going to hold you to when you come to Connecticut. We're going to do a little wine tasting. We're going to raise a little money for No Kid Hungry. And truthfully, my first crush. This was a fun little day for me today. Thank you so much and continued success and God bless to you and your family.
Thanks for having me. I'll see you soon.
Bye.